Tonight's episode of Legacy Battle is brought to you by NeoraFit.
They say pictures are worth 1,000 words. Let's look at some of the amazing results that NeoraFit users have enjoyed. Check out this guy. And look at what Neora has done for this woman.
That's impressive.
And check this out. NeoraFit goes way beyond weight management. Look at all these extra benefits. Neora also features plant-based skincare and hair restoration products. Contact my good friend Vaughn at yvonneneora.com and check out all the ways Neora can improve your life.
Enjoy the show. Good afternoon. We're not doing a show in an evening for once. Welcome to Legacy Battle. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Facebook group page. If you're interested in sponsoring a podcast, please hit us up in the comments section. I am Michael Adams, the creator of Legacy Battle. Here with me tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, our favorite high school coach, Joe Lamendola, and our special guest tonight. He was part of the original Twin Towers. Don't think that it started with Duncan and Robinson. It didn't. It started with this guy. He won a national championship with the University of Kentucky in 1978. They also hung that Kentucky jersey back there from the rafters. He's part of their Hall of Fame. He was a second-team All-American, two-time first-team All-SEC. He won a gold medal representing the United States at the Pan American Games, which is great. I thank you for representing the country. We love that. And then he was a third overall pick in the NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers. And he played with the Phoenix Suns as well. And, of course, behind me, the Boston Celtics. He scored over 3,700 points and had over 2,300 boards. Ladies and gentlemen, NBA world champion, Rick Robey.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, great to have you on.
Seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, but that's the thing about tonight's debate, that this topic never gets old. We're going to be debating Magic versus Bird. And, of course, after the debate, we'll have a Q&A, some questions about Rick and his career. So we're going to start out tonight with the college years because that's how far this goes back. Goes back further than the NBA. So, Brian, let's start with Magic. What do you got on Magic in the college years?
All right, well, Magic, he went to Michigan State. And, he chose Michigan State over Michigan, a lot because he wanted to play with a great team. They already had a really good, a lot of talent there. They ended up having three other guys who ended up being drafted to the NBA, Greg Kelce, Jay Vincent, and Mike Brokovich. So that team was pretty well stacked. And so anyhow, he joins the team in 1978. He's third-team All-American. That team, they lost to a certain Kentucky team in the March Madness. Then 1970,
yeah, 16, right?
Yeah. 16, yeah. And so then 1979, he's a first-team All-American. He's the Final Four most outstanding player, and he wins the national championship over the other guy we're going to talk about, Larry Bird. So very, very superb college basketball career for Mr. Magic.
So, Rick, I got to ask this question. You guys beat him in the NCAA tournament. You beat Magic Johnson. It was 52-49, so not like a high-scoring game. But you held Magic to 6 points and only 5 assists. How did you guys do that?
Not really sure, but I can remember the game. They were really closing in the inside on Phillips, myself, and Lee, and we started running a pick and roll type thing with Macy. And Macy, that ball game, I think hit like 12 or 14 free throws. He'd come off my pick, either take the shot or get fouled. And Macy played a real key role in that win for us that night. But they had a great team. They had Custer. They had, trying to think of the other guy on their team, but they're a very good team. One of the tougher teams we had to beat my senior year, the year we won it. I figured if we could get past Michigan State and if we could get past the triplets, Arkansas, because we didn't match up real well with them, it was going to be a great year for us, which it was.
Right. And Magic, I mean, he averaged 17.1 points in college. You know, that's pretty good. Now, Magic obviously was more of a playmaker. I mean, he had 7.9 assists, so that's definitely up there. 7 college awards, and he played, 2 years at Michigan State. So he didn't do the full 4, but not a lot of people do the full 4, especially nowadays.
Nowadays.
Lucky if you get 1 nowadays, right?
Well, Kentucky calls me now to do radio shows. I said, I can't keep track who's there.
Yeah, Kentucky's where they'd have the one and done. I mean, that's where it is now. I mean, Calipari. But
Yeah.
Joe, anything you want to add on Magic in his college years?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty much what's been said already. His college career, like you said, 2-time NCAA All-Region, outstanding player. At a school that was a big school back in the day, But yeah, I mean, everything's just already been said what I would have added.
And Rick, seeing Magic play, did you know he was going to become what he became in the NBA?
No question about it. Both he and Larry, are those type players that just bring the best out of everybody that they're around. You watch them play, they don't really jump that high, don't really look like they run that fast. There's probably more athletic players than the two of them, but they were always 2 or 3 steps ahead of the person they were playing against. They just had that God-gifted talent.
Right. So let's move on to Bird's college years. Joe, why don't you start us off with Larry Bird?
All right. So Larry Bird attended Indiana State University from 1976 to 1979, where he trying to look for his record. I'm sorry, I'm in the car, so I'm trying to pull my records here. He played 94 games and a total of 1,033 minutes. He made 1,154 field goals of the 2,165 attempts, which was a 533%. He had a 822 free throw percentage. He had 1,247 total rebounds, 535 assists, 240 steals, and 83 blocks. When he finished his career at college, he had total points of 2,850. What's neat about this is, we see him as a Celtic and stuff like that. He's always been a Celtic, but that could have changed in college if they have the rules they have nowadays. Back because he was drafted by Boston in '78 and was allowed to, or '79 was allowed to finish his career, go back to school, and still stay in the draft. And Indiana passed on him because they said it was going to be hard to sign, and ended up going 5th to the Celtics. So, or 6th, I think it was 6th, 5th or 6th, 6th. Yeah. Because our gentleman on today went 5th. So, but so
third.
yeah, so
you went 3rd.
Oh, that's right, 3rd. That's right. Right.
Yeah, I went to the Pacers.
You're right.
I always told Larry, Kentucky gave me their last scholarship over him, and I got drafted ahead of him.
There you go. But if the rules in college nowadays, we may be talking about different dynasty and a different type of player back in the day. So that was impressive. His college career numbers are pretty impressive.
Well, and Larry, he didn't start at Indiana State. He started blanking on the college he started at now, but he didn't like the big.
Well, yeah, he went to Indiana.
Bobby, hey,
Yep,
Indiana,
yep.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And if I heard correctly, Rick, you had over 210 offers for your college. Is that true?
well, I could have gone where I wanted to. I had narrowed it down to Notre Dame in Kentucky, basically.
Wow.
That was back with Digger Phelps. They had Adrian Danley in that group. So
I know you didn't play against Bird in college, but I'm sure you were a little familiar with his career. What were your thoughts on Larry in the college years?
well, I mean, just a great all-around player. I did have an experience in the World Invitational Games after my senior year. Our starting five at Kentucky, along with Bird, Magic, Cindy Moncrief, I think Norm Cook, we played in that World Invitational game. So I got to know Larry and Magic during that 3 or 4 week period of when we trained together. And plus, I think we played a total of 4 games. But you could just tell the talent of both of them. And, you know, I got drafted by the Pacers, and Dave Cowens was always like my high school idol. You know, I always wanted to be the next Dave Cowens, and here all of a sudden I'm playing against him. He was a player coach at the time. And after that ball game at Indy, he said, Rick, we're going to make a trade for you and try to get you in Boston this year. And by golly, a month and a half later, I got that phone call and was traded to Boston. And that's back when Boston had, you know, JoJo White, Curtis Rowe, Bad News Marvin Barn, Bob McAdoo. And they were having a terrible season. We only won 32 games that year. But that's the year they were able to get Bird drafted or signed before that next draft. Then they traded the first pick for Joe Barry Carroll, and were able to get Robert Parrish, and then got McHale in the third pick. So, you know, the dynasty is history now. To this day, I still say that's probably the greatest back line to ever play the game.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely up there for sure.
But as far as the Bird Magic, they both just had that sixth sense of being able to make other players great, along with their ability to be great players.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's something I was going to bring up, was that you think about what Bird did there with Indiana State. I mean, that's not a basketball school. It's not a great, you know, it wasn't great caliber players there, but he ended up 81-13 in 3 seasons there. And of course, getting to the national championship. I know they lost to Michigan State by 11, but man, I mean, what a tremendous way of just like you said, you know, lifting up his teammates' skill level as well as his own.
And if I'm remembering, go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
I mean, I know Larry a lot better than I know Magic. And Bird is just that type of person that never thought he could lose. You know, he wanted that ball. He'd tell people, you know, I'm going to get this ball, and you know I'm going to score on you on those close ball games. He just had that personality, but he was good enough to back it up, and he was tough. You know, he's a tough guy. He's a fighter, and that's why they're both great players.
And if I'm remembering correctly, too, Indiana State, they never made the tournament until Bird got there. And then he takes them to a 33-0 season.
Yeah.
Undefeated. It's incredible. So Bird, he averaged 30.3 points in college, 4.6 assists, 15 college awards, played 3 years over there at Indiana State. But, you know, maybe kind of the determining factor for their college years is the 1979 college championship, you know, NCAA championship game where you got Magic versus Bird in the title game. And as Brian said, you know, Magic got the upper hand on that one with a 75-64 victory. You know, looking at the stats for that game, I do feel that Bird kind of outplayed Magic. You know, as we said earlier, Magic had a lot more talent around him at the college years. So maybe that's why, Indiana State had to rely on Bird more. But it started in college, and then we move into yeah, move into the NBA. So we'll start with Bird this time. Brian, let's talk about some personal accolades and stats.
Well, I mean, this is a long list, so I'm going to abbreviate this some. But I mean, first off, a career award, being on the NBA's 50th anniversary team. I mean, of all the great NBA players that we've seen year in and year out, and Larry Bird is on that team, and that's just a heck of an accolade there. He was, in 1986, he was the AP Athlete of the Year. Now, that's not just for basketball. That's for every single sport on the planet. And they ranked him, as the Athlete of the Year in 1986. He had an incredible year in 86. Included also in 86, he became the first to ever be part of the 50-40-90 club. Now, if you don't know what the 50-40-90 club is, that's 50% or more field goal percentage, 40% or more three-point percentage, and 90% or more free throw percentage. There's only been 9 players that have ever done this. And Bird did it not once, but he did it twice. He did it in 86 and in 87. He was the three-point contest winner, 86 through 88. I mean, we all know about just how great he was beyond the arc. It's able to call his shot pretty much. He was just he was money out there. 1982 to 1984, all defensive second team. He raised his game. He was not just a scorer. He raised his game and became a very good defensive player as well. 1980, he was the Rookie of the Year. 9-time All-NBA first teamer. 12-time NBA All-Star. 3 times he was the most valuable player of the entire league, and that was 3 consecutive seasons, 1984 to 1986. 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 1984 to 1984 and 1986. And then his career totals were pretty impressive too. I mean, he's 18th on the all-time list, points per game, 24.3. He's up there in the top 50 in assists, 6.3, which is pretty good for considering the position he played. So he had some just great accolades, great stats all the way around.
The back problems in the older years started, holding him back a little bit, unfortunately. He didn't play to be that old. Was he 34, 33?
Played 13 seasons. So, yeah, I think he was in his mid-30s by then.
Right.
He's still struggling with that back. I've seen quite a bit in Naples, and we've played some golf, and sometimes when I go down there, he's out, because of the back situation. But
if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he was shoveling snow or something, he was shoveling something, and that's how he hurt his back?
Who knows?
Yeah. I thought I read that.
Well, Rick, you played with him in Boston. You won a championship with him in Boston. Is there anything you could tell us that maybe, people don't know, or everybody knows he's great, but was there something that really stuck out from his game?
Well, I just kind of repeat myself, but he was just that type of guy. Robert Parrish, when he came into town from Golden State, Robert wasn't that good a player at the time. Okay, Robert hadn't learned to really run the floor. Robert really hadn't learned to be the type of scorer that he could be. And I think once he got around Bird and Bird's personality, he was able to turn Robert into one of the better centers to ever play the game. Same thing with McHale. I think he just made both of those guys that much better, because if you were able to get in the right position, Larry got you the ball. And he just gave you that type of confidence.
Well, and we know he was a leader on the court. Was he also a leader in the locker room? Was he one of the guys that kind of captained them? Or?
No question about it. He's normally the first one at practice and the last one to leave. He wasn't one of those prima donnas that only wanted to play the ball games. If he was hurt, this guy's played 34, 35 minutes at night and beat up, he would still show up for practice. And he just showed that leadership. So
Yeah. So Joe, tell us about Magic's personal accolades.
All right, so Magic Johnson was a 12-time All-Star. He was a 4-time assist leader champion, 2-time steals champion, 5-time NBA champ. He was named to the All-Star All-NBA team 10 times. In 79-80, he was All-Rookie, 2 All-Star MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs. In his career, NBA career, averaging 19.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, and had 11.2 assists per game. When he retired in 1996, he retired as the all-time leader in assists with 9,981 assists. Yeah, I mean, and he's on some of the same lists that Larry Bird is. He's on the all 50th anniversary team, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. Obviously, he has the 5 rings with the Lakers. You know,
I think did Stockton pass him on the assist list?
He has now, I believe. I believe he has.
No, actually not. Well, I think maybe for total assists, but for average, assists per game,
total. Yeah.
Magic Johnson has the lead. I was going to say something about that. Was that it's incredible. Magic has 11.2 assists per game in his career. Second place is Stockton at 10.5, and then third percent is Robertson at 9.5. So from first to third, there's almost a 2 assists per game difference.
Yeah,
That just shows you how head and shoulders that Magic Johnson was, with his passing game above everyone else.
I'm shocked that Chris Paul isn't up on that list. Wow.
He's in 4th, actually. He's in 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's slowed down the last few years. I think that's his numbers are coming down a little bit. But so Rick,
the unique thing about Magic, I think, is he could play any position. He could play point guard, 2 guard, small forward, big forward, center. He could play defense on just about any type of player. And that's hard to find that type of player. So.
Well, and when he came back from what we'll call his retirement and played there that one more year, I know they were playing him on forward. He wasn't real happy about that. But what I always like to look at, I'm a stats guy and hardware, and that's how I make a lot of determinations. So let me just put this side by side for you. You got Magic with the 3 final MVPs, Bird with 2. Regular season MVPs, they're tied with 3. All-Stars, they're tied with 12. All-Star MVP, Bird's got 1, Magic's got 2. All-NBA first team, they both have 9. All-NBA second team, they both have 1. They both were on the all-rookie team. However, Bird won Rookie of the Year. Magic Johnson did not. Brian, you mentioned the 3-point contest for Bird. And Joe, you said the 4-time assist leader. Bird was also a 3-time all-defensive team, which Magic was never on that, but Magic did lead the league in steals 2 times. And then gold medals, you got Bird with 3. Magic only has 2. So as far as the hardware, they're pretty even. And then you go to stats. We know that Magic was more of a playmaker, which why Magic averaged 11.2 assists, Bird only 6.3. Bird was a shooter, pure shooter, could take it in as well. Hit the layup. He could do pretty much anything. His points are 24.3 to Magic at 19.5. And then on the boards, you got Bird at 10 and Magic only at 7.2. Steals, they're almost dead even. Field goal percentage, you got Magic at 520 and Bird at 496. But then if you go to the 3-point percentage, then you got Bird in the lead with 376 to 303. And then Bird also leads in blocks. So even with the stats, they're pretty close. I mean, the points and assists are going to be different because they're different types of players, but they were both pretty much the best at what they did, which makes the debate a little difficult. It's almost like you want to compare Bird maybe to like Jordan and Johnson to LeBron, because that's kind of the type of games they facilitate with one another. But statistically, these guys are pretty dead even. I mean, Rick, you obviously you played with Bird, but you played against them both. You know,
all I can say is you want them both in your foxhole.
yeah.
I bet.
Playing,
But,
go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say one stat also I want to throw out is that Magic, he had 138 triple-double games, which is third of all time. So, I mean, he's only, I think it's Westbrook and Jordan. I'm not sure who the other one is, but yeah, I mean, that's tremendous to be up that high in triple-double games.
all I can tell you is these kids today have those two guys to thank. My rookie year was the first year for ESPN. Okay. ESPN is what really changed the world as far as contracts, and Bird and Magic are the two guys that turned it around for these athletes to be signing contracts like they are today.
That's a good point.
Jordan came on and Jordan kept it going. But really, Bird, Magic are the ones everybody should get up every day to say thank you.
Oh yeah, it was their rivalry that drove the ratings way.
They really brought the NBA ratings and TV and just everything from tennis shoe companies to marketing. That's when it all turned, is when they came into the league.
So speaking of the rivalry, let's talk head to head. I'm going to take this one. So, I mean, the win percentage when every season Larry Bird played, Celtics win percentage was at .705. They had a record of 751 wins and 314 losses. And you go over to Magic, their win percentage in the seasons he played was .717, and they won 765 and lost 301. So pretty close there. They met 18 times in the regular season, and Magic leads that 11 wins to 7. And then in the playoffs, Magic leads in the playoffs 11 wins to 8. But of course, the big one is in the finals, where Magic leads 2-1 over Bird in the NBA championship head-to-head matchup. So it does put Magic slightly ahead. I mean, championships are big, you know, but the nice thing about our show is it's not just stats and hardware. We're talking like overall legacies too. So that's a determining factor a lot. But Joe or Brian, you guys want to add anything on the head-to-heads?
Well, not so much the head-to-heads, but I would add the fact that, you know, we look at Larry Bird as a player, but even as a coach, he was NBA Coach of the Year in '98, and then All-Star game head coach in '98, same year. But I thought I had his record down somewhere, but his record was pretty impressive as a head coach. Coaching, yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you, Michael. It's splitting hairs, really, man. It's you know, if you take in the way I look at it this way is if you took one player off that team, would that team be the same team? You know what I'm saying? If you took Larry Bird off the Celtics or Magic off the Lakers, would that teams be the same? So it's splitting hairs, man. That's all I had to add to it.
That's an interesting point, Joe, because that's something sort of what I was going to bring up, is that there's a narrative out there that is, you know, Magic Johnson, yeah, he was great, but he never was able to win the NBA championship without Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on his team. And that's technically true, but there's one thing that I think a lot of people that say that forgot, and that is in the 1980 finals in game 6, when they were up 3-2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was injured. He couldn't play in that game 6. So Magic came in and he played center instead of Kareem, and he scored 42 points in that game and secured the championship. And that was as a rookie. And so this idea that maybe, you know, he couldn't have done it without Kareem is not really, I don't think, fair.
Right.
And, you know, and would Bird have been able to do it without Parrish and McHale? I don't know. I mean, it's really tough to say for sure. I think that the team, you know, as far as the quality of the team might have leaned a little bit, more towards the Lakers just because Kareem was so, Kareem's also a guy that's in the top 5 conversation.
Yeah.
And none of the guys from the Celtics are really guys that are in the top 5 conversation. So it might lean a little bit towards the Lakers, but man, I think Magic did enough to throw a lot of doubt in there.
Sprinkle in a James Worthy too.
I will say Kareem was kind of out of his prime too.
That's true. Yeah, he was older then. Yeah,
I played against Kareem. Believe me, he was a much better player at a younger age. He wasn't quite able to run the floor like he used to and do some of the things that he could as a young kid. But, but Magic had Worthy, he had Wilkes, he had some other great.
Yeah, no doubt.
So hypothetically speaking, Rick, if we took Bird off the Celtics and we took Magic off the Lakers, which team do you think is going to succeed more?
I think you're just talking about 2 guys that were just, you want them on your team. I mean, they're both great players. They both were guys that showed up every day to play. They weren't prima donnas. They went out and did what they had to do. They both had toughness about them. I'm going to pick Bird because Bird, heck, is one of my good friends. I've been in a lot of foxholes with him on and off the floor. So he's definitely, if you're a friend of his, he's got your back. I'll say that.
So let's move into the after playing career. Brian, why don't you start us out on that?
Bird or Magic?
Your choice. Go for it.
Okay, well, I'll get into Magic because Magic's got a really interesting one. I mean, we obviously know why he retired. It was found that he had the HIV virus, and and he really took the news, I think, like a man, and he really showed a lot of bravery. He came out, he had that press conference, he announced what happened. He kind of, by doing that, I think that, before that, the idea and the narrative was that, HIV was only tied to, certain types of people, there's certain sexuality or there's certain, or maybe, into drugs or something like that. But then to have a guy like Magic come out and say that this happened to him, sort of, maybe normalized it for folks and said, hey, this could happen to anybody. George H.W. Bush, the president of the United States, he called Magic a hero for his bravery on this topic here, and I agree with him. And he wrote a lot of books, about his experience with HIV and safe sex, that sort of thing. And he became a spokesman and a motivational speaker on that front as well. 1994, briefly, he was the coach of the Lakers. He had a 5-11 record. Nothing really to get too excited about there. But business ventures, he got into a lot of things in the business world. He has the Magic Johnson Enterprises. It's a promotional company. There's Magic Works. He has part ownership in the LA Dodgers. So he actually, just this past season, he's got a World Series to add to his accolades as well. He owns the Dayton Dragons, who is a Class A baseball team. And he's a part owner of the Los Angeles Sparks in the WNBA. He was an NBA commentator for a while for TBS, 7 seasons. And, and recently he was a Lakers executive, and he was the guy that brought in LeBron James, that got LeBron James signed to the Lakers. And, and then we all know what happened there. So he's done a lot after his playing career, and, a lot of good stuff, a lot of successful stuff.
Well, we know what happened when he brought in LeBron James, but it wasn't until after Magic was gone that they were able to win those titles. In fact, Magic, was tampering with other teams' players, and that was a big thing. And he had a falling out with the Lakers in 2019. And he stepped down as the president of basketball operations. And a lot of that had to do with the tampering thing. And during his tenure, they didn't make the playoffs, 2017 there to 2019. And he was so crazy trying to get Anthony Davis. At one point, he offered anybody on the roster but LeBron or the entire roster. So, I mean, he wasn't the greatest executive. And, I'm going to give Bird the nod on the after basketball just for this fact, because Magic Johnson's talk show was so horrible. It only lasted 8 weeks. It was so bad that he loses out on the after basketball section for me. But so let's move to Bird after his playing days. Joe, you'd already mentioned that he was the coach of the year in '88. He had a .687 win percentage as a coach, so that's pretty darn good with the Indiana Pacers. Of course,
that was 98. 98 he was coach.
98.
98. I'm sorry. What did I say? 87. Yeah. And he coached the Pacers, and he took Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls to 7 games, which is pretty impressive. During the Jordan run there, almost knocked him out. And if anybody saw The Last Dance, we saw the comments that Jordan made to Larry after that game. But Larry definitely could coach, and he said he was only going to coach 3 years when he took the job, and he only coached 3 years, so he stuck to his guns. And of course, he was the executive of the year in 2012 with Indiana. So he has done quite well with his basketball. Now he's not a billionaire like Magic. Magic has definitely had some ventures that have made him some good money. But
I think that's Larry Bird's style, though.
Yeah.
He does own a couple businesses that I know of. So maybe it's just because he's not really one to be in the limelight, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but Twitter, the logo is named Larry after Larry Bird. So that's
that
kind
right?
of that's kind of interesting. And of course, he's been in 3 movies, including Space Jam. Magic wasn't in Space Jam. I mean, all the studs were in Space Jam.
Right there.
Yeah. But so Rick, Larry after his basketball days, he's always been more quiet. Magic was Showtime. Magic was always putting himself out there.
I have people calling me all the time trying to get to Larry, because Larry just is the type. He's, when he was done with basketball, he wants his privacy. He likes going out, drinking a beer with his buddies, playing a little golf. He has a ranch up in Bloomington where he stays in the summertime. And, he's just more of a non-Hollywood type person. He's the hick from French Lick. Okay. So,
Yep.
And he hasn't changed, but both of them have been very successful in what they've ever gone after basketball, I feel like. So,
well, if he ever wants to do a small podcast, hook us up. We'll do a Celtics Mount Rushmore.
Dave Shaughnessy's killing me. The writer up in Boston, he knows I go to Naples, and when you and Larry are having a few beers, just make him call me, because I want to get a couple of quotes.
Well, I don't want any quotes. I just want a Mount Rushmore show. So give him my email and get that going.
But what you see in Larry is what he is. He's just.
He seems very humble. Is that accurate?
He is a humble guy.
Yeah.
And he's, he's thankful for what he was able to accomplish. And, I always called him a tightwad. He was always careful with his money. And, he finally took me out to dinner a couple times. Few times I've seen him, because I used to pay for his meals as a rookie. Because
Nice.
he was so tight. Hell, $50. I could have lived in French Lick for a week.
Well, you said you golf with him. I've always wondered this, because I love to golf. My brother and I golf. What's his handicap?
He's probably shoots anywhere from 75 to 90,
Wow.
depending on the
Nice.
body. He can play. He's a good player.
Who's better, you or him?
Angie, McHale, and Bird and I used to play all the time.
Who's better, you or him?
Given day,
Depending on his back, right?
on his back. So.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. So before we go to our vote, let's go to our trivia question. So trivia question for a prize today. Prior winners, you guys are still ineligible. Put your answers in the Facebook group section, and we'll get your prize mailed out to you. So, of these basketball movies, which one had the highest combined total score in the final game played in the movie? So the three movies are Blue Chips, Semi-Pro, and Hoosiers. So which one had the final score that was the greatest? And then the second part of the question is which team's coach is an Academy Award winner? So throw that in the comment section. We'll get your prize out to you. All right. Any final thoughts before we vote from anybody? Nothing more to add? All right. Let's go to our vote. Brian, we've had Manning Brady. We've had Crosby Ovechkin, Lemieux Gretzky. This is right in there with how hard it is. You and I are on all those. So who do you take?
Yeah, it really is. It's so tough to pick. When I look at the college aspect, first off, I lean towards Bird just because of the way he was able to lift those other teammates up. You know, he wasn't on a stacked team. You know, he was the team. Everybody knew it was him, but they couldn't stop it. You know, and so that's big. I lean towards him on college. I also lean towards Bird on the you know, in his, well, really, I think in his career, it's in this NBA career, it's really, really close. I like the inspirational and the business stuff that Magic did in his post career, so I sort of lean that way too. So that's what makes this really tight. I'm gonna go with Bird on this one, just because I just love the fact that he was able to rise up and do things, you know, when his teammates weren't always the best. That really rings true with me. So I'm going to go with Bird.
So I'm going to go next. So growing up, I was a Celtics fan. We had no team in Pittsburgh. So, you know, I rooted for Boston. And, you know, Larry Bird is my second favorite player of all time. And the only reason why he's not my first favorite player of all time is because Michael Adams from the Denver Nuggets was my favorite player because we had the same name. So that's the only reason why Bird is at number one. Now, granted, Bird was a lot better than Michael Adams. Michael Adams had a nice career, had some all-star games, but, you know, so Bird was my favorite. But that being said, from a legacy standpoint, like, Magic just was so much more out there in the public, and I respect how Bird kept low key. I respect that, but just from a legacy standpoint, like Magic, I think worldwide is just known like so much greater than maybe Larry would. I think here in America, if I was voting just based off the United States, I'd say Larry Bird, but I really think worldwide, like Magic and Showtime. It just captivated people. So as much as I hate to say it, I am taking Magic Johnson. So Joe, go ahead.
Well, like I said earlier, it's like splitting hairs. I look at the NBA or even the college, you know, numbers and heads to heads and all like that as far as teams go. And maybe Magic has a slight edge because of the championship rings, the national championship. But, you know, one-on-one pickup game, numbers, the numbers head-to-head doesn't really lie a lot. And with that being said, all the categories that I was looking at, Bird just had the edge over Magic Johnson if they're playing on one-on-one. If it's a one-on-one Saturday at the park, then I've got to go with Bird. So that's why I'm going with Bird.
Okay. And we're going to go to Rick. I think we know where Rick's going, but your vote, Rick.
Well, it's real easy for me. You know, I just feel like Bird, you know, they're both great players. But if I was going to pick one to be in my foxhole, I know Larry Bird's the one I'd pick. So,
hey, fair enough. And on, you know, I do think Bird is the better player. But
see you next week, and if somebody sees us and tells, I better.
yeah, no, I do think Bird's the better player. Just legacy wise, I just feel like Johnson's legacy is a little bigger, though. You know.
Well,
Yeah, that's fair.
he was in L.A. You know.
Yes, exactly. L.A. Yeah, if you L.A. New York, you're
Hollywood.
yeah, Hollywood. All right, let's move into our Q&A for Rick and his career. Brian, you can start us off.
Well, I mean, as I look over your career, I mean, we got John B. Hall, we got Slick Leonard, Dave Cohen's, Bill Fitch, John McLeod, some good coaches in there. Which coaches really stood out and sort of meant the most to you and molded you?
Well, I'd have to say Joe B. Hall, Kentucky. You know, I came out of New Orleans. I was a 6'10", 265-pound kid coming out of high school, and he molded me into the type player that I became in college. I think as far as my pro career is concerned, you know, just my relationship with Dave Cowens was huge. Not only was he a player coach, but we became teammates and really good friends. And also Casey Jones, who just passed away, he was the assistant coach at Boston, but Casey and I were really, really tight. So, but Coach Hall was definitely, he and Andy Russo, my high school coach, were the two that really that molded me. So,
Joe, go ahead.
Two-part question, if that's okay. The first question is, you said earlier it was Kentucky or Notre Dame.
right.
What prompted you to choose into Kentucky?
Well, the reason why is they had a senior bunch of Kevin Greavy, Bob Guyette, Jimmy Dan Connors, Mike Flynn, and I just felt like they had already signed Jack Givens, Mike Phillips, Danny Hall, and James Lee. I just felt like with that senior group coming back and our freshman group, it could really turn into something special. And, you know, if they didn't guarantee me anything when I got there, you know, all the freshman bunch were all good high school players and highly recruited. But that, you know, I was able to start with Greavy, Guyette, Flynn, Connors, and that's the year we got beat by UCLA in the finals. So,
That's awesome. And the other question, real quick, is you watch today's NBA throughout the years. Has anything changed in the game that you see that might be bad for basketball? That maybe, you know, you look and say, "Man, it's just bad. It's just bad basketball."
well, you know, back in our day, the inside game meant a lot. Your post play was important. I think today's game, what's important is being able to shoot 3-pointer. If you can shoot 3-pointers, they're going with that instead of the higher percentage shot inside. It's became more of a perimeter game compared to back when I played.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The way Larry hits the threes, imagine what he would do in today's NBA. Oh, man. He'd be averaging 50 points a night.
Been crazy.
So I wanted to ask you, I said at the beginning during the introduction that you were part of what I like to call the original Twin Towers with, it was Mike Phillips, right?
Right.
So just tell me like a little bit like what it was to play with him. And I mean, you guys were pretty much unstoppable in college. Obviously, you know, getting to the title and then winning the title. So just tell me a little bit about playing with Mike and how you guys kind of dominated.
Well, you know, it had never been done before. And Coach Hall, you know, I played the big four, Mike played center. Mike was a very good offensive player. you know, I think he and I he didn't run the floor quite like I did, but if you got the ball inside to him, he was really good. But just our size alone, you know, we were all 6'10", 240 pounds, 245 pounds. We also had James Lee, you know, 6'6", 240. So we could throw a pretty good sized lineup at you. And, you know, after our career, it was Bowie, Turpin. So it kind of just went on with Kentucky with playing big guys together.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you were drafted third overall in 1978 by the Pacers. Can you tell us like what, like right before the draft, like what was kind of going through your mind? Did you know that the Pacers were the team that was interested in you, or was there like some doubt in there, like who was going to draft you?
Well, I mean, I knew the Pacers were going to pick me. Larry Fleischer, who was the Player Association president, in charge of, was my agent coming out. He was trying really hard to, New York had the 4th pick, and he just felt like New York would have been a much better spot for me to go, marketing-wise and all that. But the Pacers stuck to their guns and kept the 3rd pick, and I ended up going there. It was a little bit of a, you know, different atmosphere than what I was accustomed to at Kentucky. The Pacers were. Slick Leonard was pretty laid back. I was more accustomed to rituals, routines, and that type of thing. But, you know, I was just happy to be traded to Boston. Boston was more like a Kentucky pro team, you know, with the sport tradition, and knowing that they already had Bob McAdoo, JoJo White, Chris Ford. They had good players, but they'd already drafted Bird, knew they were going to get him signed, and that they had the #1 pick. So there was a possibility for me to be on a really good young team. So I got lucky, got to play with some really great players.
Joe, go ahead.
So I got a question. So coaches that come from college, they get hired in NBA. Some make it, some don't. What do you, in your opinion, what are some of the challenges for the coaches that attempted to coach in the NBA and just wasn't successful?
Well, I think your college coach probably is more of an X and O teacher of the game. I think your pro coaches are more blending big egos, guys that really know the game. Yes, they're, you know, they have certain plays and stuff they want us to run, but they're more trying to mix personalities more so than teaching how to go shoot a shot or how to block out or how to play defense. They're more nurturing. You know, you always have certain ones on the team that were powders or big guys, and you know they just had to be that type of person to be able to blend them. And your good pro coaches, most of them were former players.
So you won an NCAA championship and an NBA championship. I mean, not a lot of people have won both those. So I mean,
I'm going to give you a new trivia question.
Yeah.
High school, NIT, NCAA, and NBA. The only players to do it.
Is that you?
Yeah, I think we're looking at them. Yeah.
Wow.
I get it.
That's great. I'll mail you out a prize.
Because it used to, you'd see that, and they'd have, you know, Magic. They'd have some names with me. But that NIT, I get them.
Okay. Well, is there one that maybe means the most to you, or are they all kind of?
They all mean something. The college one, I think I played a huge role in it. You know, the NBA, I played somewhat of a role in it, but the college one, I just felt like myself and Jack and Kyle, the three of us, carried Kentucky to that championship. But they're both fun. Believe me, when you win a championship in Boston, they're the greatest fans. I mean, it's like Kentucky fans are in college.
And what does it like mean to you? 2005, Kentucky retired your jersey. What does that mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot. I'm glad my father was still alive to be able to see it. Probably means more to him than it did to me at the time, but it's an honor. I mean, with the caliber of players that have gone through Kentucky, I live here now. I have a business here, so it's neat to be able to say to people, "Yeah, my jersey's in Rupp Arena," and it was a big honor.
Do you have time for one more each, or?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, I look at the way things went down for Kentucky during your career. You guys got to in your first season, you guys got to the finals, but lost to UCLA. Then the next couple seasons, you guys were good, but not great. And then everything came together in that final season. So, what is it that you could point to that maybe was the reason why everything really worked in that final championship season?
Well, my sophomore year, I didn't play the last half of the year due to a knee injury. So I really feel like with me out of the lineup, it really kind of set us back some my sophomore year. My junior year, I feel like we got beat by North Carolina. That's back when they were able to four-corner it. There wasn't a shot clock, and they were able to get like a 12, 14-point lead on us early, and they just spread the floor on us. They made 35 out of 36 free throws. We got within 4, but really that team with Larry Johnson as our point guard, we probably could run with anybody. And if we would have made it to that Final Four that year, I feel like we would have won it again. Marquette ended up winning it, but Marquette wouldn't have been able to stay with us because I think we averaged 90-some points a game. We were, just that type of team. Now, our senior year, we were picked by everybody to win it. I mean, if we wouldn't have won it that year, it would have been a terrible season for us. So it all worked out.
Joe?
So there's people that like the one and done, don't like the one and done in college. What's your take on the one and done? How do you think it hurts or helps players or colleges?
I mean, I don't like it. I can't blame the players because of the type of money that they're, coming out. I mean, they sign one contract, they're set for life if they take care of themselves. So you can't blame them. I'd like them to see them change the rule like football, that you have to at least go to your junior year before you can enter the draft. As I said earlier in the show, I have people call me all the time wanting me to do radio shows on the Kentucky team. And I tell them, I said, I don't even know the guys' names. They don't say their long time. But it's, I'd say they're going to have to change something. I think this year's Kentucky team, we're going to finally get to see some of them come back as bad as they've been playing.
So we'll get you out here on this one. The Pan American Games, do you still have the gold medal? I'm assuming that you do. And how did you get asked to be on that team? Like, was there a process? Did you have to try out, or they just picked you because you were so good?
Well, I was a freshman, and they weren't allowing freshmen to try out, but Adolph Rupp was on the Olympic board, and Adolph Rupp was the reason why I was able to get a tryout out in Salt Lake City. There's probably 100 players that were invited out there, and it was a month of a process of eliminating it down to our team. And on that team, Robert Parrish played on that team with me, Tree Rollins, Otis Birdsong. Who else was on that team? Johnny Davis, Norm Cook. So it was a great group of players, and I ended up playing against and with a lot of them in the pros. So
you still have the medal?
Still have the medal.
That's
And
great.
I also have the 1981 World Championship ball
Nice.
all signed by the whole team. When the buzzer went off, I kept it.
And that is not tonight's prize for the trivia winner, just so everybody's
So, but no, I still have my gold medal, got my NBA ring, got that ball. I have the 1978 championship net. Got my championship ring. NCAA. All the auctions houses are calling me.
Right.
Go ahead and let auction all this stuff. No, I just haven't. So.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Rick Robey, for joining us.
Not a problem.
That was an honor having a former Celtic on. So
Sir.
I
I
love that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Y'all stay healthy and stay safe.
Thank you.
That's when I'm hitting that ball in Naples next week.
All right. Well, I want to remind everybody to join that, subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Facebook group, and that's where you can win those trivia prizes. So thank you everybody watching. It's not good night, it's good afternoon. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
See you guys.